In the past, I've done the following. Now, maybe I shouldn't admit this to you guys, but I am going to, because for today's purposes, it's important. Okay, when I've seen them coming down the driveway, like walking down my driveway, I hide. I duck behind the couch or a chair, and I tell the kids to be quiet, right? When this has happened. And then the doorbell will ring, and I'm like, shh, just pretend we're not here. And the kids are like, Mom, you're sitting behind a couch right now. We are here. And I'm like, I know. Just please pretend that we're not here right now. Okay, they'll say to me. Doorbell will ring again. We're all quiet. Nobody goes to the door. Now, what am I hiding from? You might ask. Well, I'm hiding from, the black pants, black shoes, white shirt, tie, matching backpacks, and buddy system. The Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses are at my door, and I am crouched behind a chair, hoping they will go away. Now, does that sound pathetic, evasive, kind of juvenile? It kind of is. But do any of you do the same thing? And if you don't do the same thing, I want to know whether or not the words like evangelical or proselytizing kind of creep you out, give you the heebie-jeebies. My guess is they do for most of us, right? Okay, you see, for me, as I crouch behind my chair, two things usually go through my head. Now, number one is I am grateful, honestly, for their offering, their outreach. I am. Cross my heart and hope to die. I am. They are selling a product, a theological construct that indeed saves people's lives. I don't doubt that. And on the whole, I am incredibly grateful that there are religious traditions out there that fit personalities and ideologies that are different than my own. So there are less people kind of wandering in the wilderness, if you will. Places that can definitively give people the answers to life, kind of put borders around their ambiguity and offer a heaven for those struggling with how to keep going on. So on one level, I'm grateful for that knock on the door. They are serving a particular need, not my own need. And with this little caveat, as long as their beliefs don't threaten or harm others, then yeah, it's true. They do help a certain amount of people. So that's the first reaction. And here's the second. What happens next is I sit behind that chair, I kind of daydream a little bit. I daydream about what life would be like had I hadn't found this religious tradition and how lost and isolated I know I would feel. Because without this tradition, what would I do? I know I'd feel somewhat, if not seriously, disconnected from humanity. I know that I'd feel shunned on some level, because if you say you are a non-theist or the dreaded A word, which for those of you who don't know is saying you're an atheist, all of a sudden you're judged kind of and thrown in the garbage dump of moral impropriety with murderers and rapists and of course other atheists. Now, if you think that I'm wrong on this, I would like you to come up with one politician you can name that is an outed atheist. It's kind of hard. It really is. Okay, so that kind of rests my case, I think. That said, without that tradition, I could try, right, a liberal Christian church, perhaps. That might, but I'd have to reframe and translate language and rituals and wording all the time. I could go to the local Zen center, which is awesome on one level, but my penchant for social justice and my need to be able to have brought my children to church with me, it wouldn't have worked out. So where do I go? And as I sit behind that chair, I think of others I know and a lot I don't know. Where do they go? What happens if someone's like culturally Jewish and they marry someone who's Catholic. I've had folks in my congregation who have been, one was Hindu and the other was Muslim. Where would they go? Or someone who grew up Lutheran and the other one's unchurched, right? What about them? Where do they go without this faith? Without knowing that this religious tradition would help them feel not isolated and lonely and disconnected. Then I think about the LGBTQ community that can go to some Christian communities that preach hate the sin and love the sinner, and wonder if they feel out of whack with their religious community and are longing to know about churches like our own. There are also Christian communities that proclaim they are open to the LGBTQ community and have big rainbow flags like in their sanctuaries or on their website, and yet they have a hard time with the trans community or gender fluidity or being gender binary. Finally, there are even those who aren't part of any religious community, and through subtle and not so subtle ways, sometimes want to climb back into the closet because they feel like second-class citizens and vulnerable to judgment, the retraction of laws and shame, especially my friends in Florida. Where do they go? I think of all those parents wanting to raise their children with strong, like character and moral values, but question whether or not there is a church out there that will explain to their children not just that own religious tradition, but the variety of religious understanding and ways of being in the world. Where do they go if they don't know about us? And by the time actually I'm done doing this little daydream in my head behind my chair, I stand and I feel kind of buoyant, and I'm incredibly grateful actually for this religious tradition that it offers a different kind of good news. I'm proud and honored by our tradition. Now, I want to be very clear though, when I am talking about smiling and being proud of this tradition of who we are, I'm not really saying that we're perfect. In fact, thanks to our movement's leaders, as well as a ton of brave UU leaders of color, we are realizing there is a lot our Unitarian Universalist congregations need to revisit and reform so that we are truly welcoming and not harming of people of color. That work is important and a priority for sure. But right alongside that work of kind of examining who we are, there's also this work of sharing who we are, of welcoming in others that is to be done, really. And again, when it comes to that, as I said, I get kind of giddy. I like get really excited about all of that, right? I also get sad because I realize how many people there are out there that way, not feeling like grief or not feeling relief and gratitude and inspiration and belonging for only one reason. They don't know about us, this faith tradition, right? They've never heard of us. In fact, I think they might even be, though, a little ticked off at us. And what do I mean by that? Well, I think my colleague, Reverend Nathan Dettering, gets at this best. And here's what he says, okay? He says, for years, we've assumed that the people who need us would eventually find us without our help. We've sometimes let our reaction against religious conservatism keep us from doing or affirming anything that might lead people to think we're actually religious ourselves. And as a result, we've missed many, many, many opportunities to make a positive difference in the world and in people's lives. So I gotta say, I read that and I thought that was a complete zinger on all of us. We've missed many, many opportunities to make a big difference out in the world and in people's lives. That hurts when you think about it that way. He's right, though. Because I guarantee you that those folks who are hiding behind their chair or their sofa in their living room, when the religious right comes to their house, they don't have the same reaction that I do. They aren't grateful Unitarian Universalism is around. Instead, they feel isolated, lonely, vulnerable, disconnected, because they don't know about us, which, by the way, is not their fault, really. It's our fault. And if they knew any of you good folks, which I know you are good folks that they love and trust, and you didn't tell them about a place that could get them connected, help them live without isolation, a place that would make them feel welcome and accepted and feel home, perhaps for the first time in their life, and you didn't tell them about that, well, it's my guess they'd have every right to call each and every one of you selfish. That's right. Here's why, my friends. And just think about this for a moment, okay? If you are willing to tell them about your favorite pizza joint, okay, but not about the place that gives your life inspiration and spiritual grounding, meaning, and connection, then they would have every right to be a little ticked off, because all they want you to do is share. That's it. Just share, to simply let them know we are out there. And when you tell them that we're out there, that there is a home for them, a church that's not a pretend religion or a cult, a fellowship like ours, or congregation that takes seriously deeds over creeds, that is about acceptance, not occlusion, an open spirituality over an enforced conformity, a place that cares about living well in this life rather than worrying about the next. Tell them we're here. You see, when you friends ask you to share your faith, when I'm saying to you, please share this faith with other people, and your friends are saying, please, you guys, you got to share it, right? They are asking you to share the good news, our good news. And make no mistake, we do indeed have a distinct way of sharing. Now, ours is more, and if you are this option, rather than you should believe this option, ours is an invitation, right? Rather than an argument or a debate. Ours is an offering rather than imposing, convincing, or damning if you don't. So what do I mean? Well, let's take the standard option of you should, okay? This argument goes that you should like Italian food better than Thai food. Now, let me tell you why Italian food is better than Thai food. Our offering of faith is more like this. If you like Thai food, man, we've got some of the best Thai food available. In the starting point class that I offer for newcomers with any congregation that I'm serving, I often say if you are feeling this deep sense of sinfulness or a need to be forgiven, that's completely okay. But, honestly, we may not be the right place for you. We're not even saying ours is better or worse than that other option, just different, just focused on different needs. We are saying, though, if you are feeling like life is shallow and thin, then hey, we've got the congregation for you. If you're after connection, then come on over and you'll find others striving to connect actually with their deepest self to life's gifts and to serve needs greater than their own. We will indeed welcome you for the unique and beautiful human being that you are. Again, this is about sharing and options, not about arguing for the best idea. So I have another colleague that put together this list. They're kind of these great questions about whether or not, you might be a Unitarian Universalist. So I want to share them with you. This is from Reverend Don Collins. He writes these questions. If you think the real difference between straight folk and gay folk is that straight folk can publicly express their affections and identity without risking their job, home, or safety, you might like Unitarian Universalism. If you experience a connection to nature and other human beings, if you think you're responsible for your own mind, body, and spirit, if you know that you don't know every answer to every question, you might like our churches. If you're not afraid of humanists, who aren't afraid of pagans, who aren't afraid of theists, who aren't afraid of atheists, who aren't afraid of Hindus, Jews, Muslims, Christians, or Buddhists, you might dig Unitarian Universalism. If you are fairly sure that face and body piercings do not by themselves signal the end of Western civilization, and if you actually like having your cage rattled every once in a while, you might like my church. If you're just irreverent enough to at least get a smirk on your face by the lyrics from Tom Waits' song that says, "There ain't no devil, that's just God when he's drunk." If you're shamed at the amount of press coverage given to the debate about the place of God in the Pledge of Allegiance in a nation where 1/6 of the children are hungry and healthcare is considered non-essential, then my friend, I have the church for you. Here it is, you guys. In the end, there's a hurting world out there that puts barriers between us, a world that needs us. It needs you. It does. It needs you. You wonderful people of faith and good work and good hearts to share that you are a community out there open to so many people. Sometimes I think it's hard actually to imagine what this might be like, right? To share. But I think it's worth a try. Okay. I want you to imagine that you are at a coffee shop and there's a person sitting next to you who's reading a book like Brave New World, right? That's on all of the banned book lists in Florida, in almost all the public schools, okay? And you walk up to them and you say, "Hey, this may sound strange, but I noticed that you're reading a banned book, right? I go to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Lake County, and we believe banning books is censoring ideas, thought, history, and freedom. We believe books should expand your imagination and your heart, not close you off to a diversity of thought and people. Anyway, if that is in keeping with your mind and your spirit and your heart, I'd love you to come to church someday." So perhaps this person takes you up on it and they come to the church and you start talking to them at coffee hour, and the two of you decide that you're going to actually start a banned book club, okay, at the congregation. And then 3 months in, this new person, this usually very shy person, finds themselves at your local school board meeting, now grounded in a moral certitude to stand up in front of a bunch of people and remind them that we are only made kinder and better, more empathetic with others when we can read about various lifestyles and places and ideas that are different from our own. We expand our humanity, not shrink it. And don't we want our children to be kinder, more compassionate, who won't bully one another than those who are told some people belong and some don't, which ultimately leads to bullying? Imagine you are at the gas station, actually, and you're filling your pump. Somebody else pulls in next to you, and they have a discreet little rainbow sticker on the back windshield, and they have a coexist bumper sticker, right? And you walk up to them and you say, "Hey, I know you don't know me, but I have found it hard to find like-minded folks in this community sometimes. and for a place that I feel like I belong. And if you feel that way, I'd really love it if you came to the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Lake County. Because we don't really care what it is that you believe. You can be an atheist, agnostic, Christian, Buddhist, Barnes and Nobleite. We care if your beliefs help heal spiritual disconnection within yourself, among and beyond. If they do, they're in. If they're not, they're out. But the point is, you see, we're very inclusive. We're loving and embracing community. You might really like us. Then 2 weeks later, right, this person that you were just like pumping gas next to and just mentioned who we were, they walk in the front door and you say hi to them and you say welcome. And you learn from them that they have a partner of the same sex and they have a kid who's gender fluid. And they have felt like it is hard to decide where to live anymore. That at times that tenor of fear and hate that is seeping into so many corners of the United States, and in particular in Florida, it makes it hard to feel safe and seen. But after meeting you and coming to this place, right, they are reconsidering that worry. Because what they needed actually was a group of people who loved them for who they were, not for who they wanted them to be. Imagine, actually, that you are at your doctor's office and your physician tells you that they just got a notice from the state health department warning them that if they perform abortions or give the abortion pill to a patient, there will be consequences. And your doctor's partner, who is also not a physician, but a pharmacist, got the exact same letter from the state health department. And your doctor is appalled by the audacity and the vagueness of the threat. And your physician is horrified by this and feels isolated and lonely and sad. He feels like the creeping reach of conservative ideology makes it hard to live in Florida and to practice in Florida. And you get up enough nerve to actually say to your physician, I don't know if you guys have a religious community, but if you don't, you might like my Unitarian Universalist congregation. We believe that we are each responsible for our own mind, body, and spirit, that we all have more agency over our own bodies. So maybe your doc shows up at church and they meet some more of your fellow parishioners, right? And they don't feel so alone and isolated anymore. And after a little while, because they started coming to your congregation, now they have a faith that they can find other providers of like minds, that they can reach out and connect on this very issue that beforehand felt so isolating and made them feel like they had to go it alone. And maybe, friends, that's at the heart of this. Maybe that's what I'm trying to get at the most today. You don't really have to go it alone. In the end, friends, that's all Unitarian Universalist evangelism is all about. That's just it. The willingness to let others know that they don't have to go it alone and welcome them in. It's not that we know better. It's that we know what it's like to have to hide our beliefs and ourselves, because this often upside down kind of culture of ours can be scary. It's not that we want to save their souls. It's that we know isolation suffocates all of our souls. It's not that we want to argue or convince. It's that we feel grateful beyond words for what we have found. And out of gratitude for that great gift, we want to share it. You've been told in a million different ways by attending the congregation that you don't have to go it alone. And that, in and of itself, it saved you. It's too important of a message to stay stuck inside your lovely building. So how about it, friends? let it loose, let it leak. Give to the world this beautiful gift that you've been given, and offer a welcome like no other, with open hearts and minds and arms. And I promise you, you will not regret it. May it be so. Amen.